We are witnessing a complete collapse in GOP unity right now. Now, over the past year and since the 2024 election, the GOP has basically been acting like they inherited a permanent governing majority. They thought Trump was cruising, they were going to hold on to the House forever, and that Democrats were never going to recover from what happened in 2024. And it is fascinating how much that has changed in the past couple of months. That reality has been shattered in so many ways. And it weirdly feels like it's just beginning for them. Now, last night there was a special election in Tennessee in a ruby red district that Trump won by 22 points in 2024. So when there was a special election to replace the Republican congressman in that district, it was supposed to be sort of a cakewalk for the Republicans. It wasn't. They had to outspend the Democratic candidate 2-1 in that race. They had to send Mike Johnson to Tennessee a couple of days ago to go canvass and do a rally for the Republican rep in that race. And when all was said and done last night, while the race was a long shot for Afton Bain, who was the Democratic candidate, uh, she only lost the race by what looks like will be only an 8-point margin when all is said and done. Meaning there from 2024, when it was a Trump 22 district, it looks like there will be a 14-point shift in the direction of the Democrat in that race. Now, that is a huge marginal shift in what is supposed to be a Trump stronghold. And that is what the has the GOP panicking, right now about how unpopular they are. Is even in these Trump ruby red districts, they have become deeply unpopular compared to where they were. And so this is kind of the new reality that the GOP is facing right now. If a shift like that happens in the midterms, and not that it will, whatever happens with Democrats in midterms, it is probably going to be a smaller, shift toward Democrats overall than a 14-point shift across the board. But were you to apply that shift to the midterm map next year, Democrats would net a 40-seat majority in the House. Like that those are huge margins and huge changes and a huge shift in public opinion over over for Democrats, I guess, over the Republican Party. And so we're watching Democrats clean up and perform exceptionally well in these special elections this year, in an off cycle year. But what those election performances have shown is that Democrats are on track to win the House pretty handily next year. And what that has created is this hand wringing and anger and disappointment within the Republican Party and the Republican caucus in Washington, D.C., because they don't want to stick around for something like that. So over the past couple of weeks, there have been over 24 House Republican retirement announcements saying that they are not going to run for their seat in the midterms next year, and instead they are going to retire. So not only do you have a wave of incumbents choosing to step away because they are unhappy with the GOP and the GOP's policies and GOP leadership, specifically in Mike Johnson right now, but with Marjorie Taylor Greene announcing a couple of weeks ago that she is going to step away from Congress entirely starting in January before her term is up, there is now a new panic in the GOP that several members are basically going to do the same thing as she's doing and step away from their role before the midterms and actually potentially give the House to the Democrats before midterms even happen next year. Now, is that a likely chance? No, but the fact that the level of discontent inside of the Republican Party right now is so high that that's even a possibility for them is a little mind blowing on the on the back of how they've been behaving the last year and what they thought was going to be, like I said, this permanent governing majority and this this swagger that they thought they had after 2024. It went away pretty quickly because I think they just thought they could walk all over the American people and that they were somehow going to remain really popular, and they clearly overplayed their hand there. And so you have these retirements, you have Democrats overperforming in these special elections, and you heard, there's been a lot of reporting about some infighting, quiet infighting within the Republican Party, the past month or 2 months, especially over the course of the shutdown. But That burst wide open today when Congresswoman Elise Stefanik from New York did an exclusive interview with the Washington Post where she called Speaker Mike Johnson an ineffective leader and a political novice. And she said that if there was a House Speaker vote held in the House today, she believes that a majority of Republicans in the House would not vote for Mike Johnson because they are so upset with how poor of a leader he has been as Speaker of the House this year. That would be mind-blowing for a rank and file Republican to say. Elise Stefanik is not a rank and file Republican. She is a member of House GOP leadership attacking her own speaker. Now, there's a little more to this story because Elise Stefanik was nominated to be Trump's UN ambassador this year. She spent all of last year selling her soul so she could get that nomination, and she got it. But because the GOP was nervous as a result of their mounting unpopularity, because the GOP was worried that Stefanik's seat would flip from red to blue in a special election this year, Johnson and Trump froze her nomination, and she's pissed about it. And she clearly wanted a little bit of revenge, and so she shivved Mike Johnson in public basically today with this interview. And it threatens to kind of burst this GOP infighting wide open. And we're starting to see that trickle out now. And it's you know, as someone, personally, and I'm sure you have as well, watched what the GOP has done to this country in the past, year. It's hard not to take quite a bit of enjoyment in watching this, all kind of blow up around the Republican Party. And I want to play a clip of Mike Johnson being asked about this Elise Stefanik interview today and how he had to respond to it. He talked to Lisa Desjardins from PBS. She caught him on the Hill and she asked him about this. Let's see what he had to say about it.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well.
Good.
Elise Stefanik, speaking to the Wall Street Journal, says that you don't have the vote for the majority of the conference anymore. How do you respond to that?
I'm not sure how to comment on what Elise is doing or what the rationale behind this is, but you can talk to Republicans in Congress. 99.9% are united. We're working together to keep delivering our agenda, and that's my focus. That's what I got to stay on. I talked to Elise late last night. We talked through what I think was a misunderstanding of the facts. We had two different set of facts about her provision on the NDAA. I'm trying to work through that. I told her, you could have just picked up the phone and called me. We would have done that initially and not had to do all this other stuff. So,
and I actually think what he said at the end is the point here when he says, oh, she could have just picked up the phone and called me. The point is she didn't pick up the phone and call him. She didn't want to do that. She wants this. She wanted to put him on blast in broad daylight. And that is a sign of a speaker who does not have control over his caucus. He doesn't even have control over his House leadership, which should be his closest allies on the Hill. He can't even have them in lockstep with him. And so I think that's sort of the point. Like the math isn't mathing here. And he wants to say, well, we're close. She could have just called me. Clearly not. And I mean, per Elise Stefanik's thought that nobody would vote for Mike Johnson if the speaker, the speaker role went to a vote on the floor. I think we should put that to the test. I think she should call it, and I think she should see what happens. And if Mike Johnson is actually able to keep his caucus together to retain his speakership. Now, there was a follow-up to this interview. She asked him some questions about just general unhappiness within the Republican caucus, and this is what Mike Johnson had to say about that.
I have talked to members, not just Stefanik, who have been very unhappy in the last couple of weeks.
well, people have been unhappy about lots of things.
Yeah.
A lot of people disagree with us staying home during the shutdown, but we won the shutdown because of that. And you're in a midterm cycle. You have very small margins, and people have their emotions and all that. But you can always find a few people who are disgruntled about things. But I'm leading in the best way that we can. I think most people understand that. We don't have the luxury of large margins like they did in previous Congresses. So it's a consensus building opportunity. I work through everybody's problems every day, and I think we're leading and delivering. I've made the point. We've had the most consequential Congress in the modern era. And objectively, I think it's one of the top 5 of all time. So we'll put the record up against all that.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Pretty rich that he thinks it's been a productive Congress this year and one of the most productive of the modern era, when all they've done is give tax cuts to the wealthiest people in the country while cutting healthcare and food benefits from people who, desperately need the help the most, while doing absolutely nothing to solve the affordability crisis for people. I don't know about you. I wouldn't necessarily chalk that up as a productive term, especially when over the course of 120 days, Mike Johnson only had the House in session for 19 of them. So he's clearly working off of a different grading rubric than past Congresses have, I guess. And what's interesting is the GOP is in the past couple weeks has gotten a lot more loud and candid about how dysfunctional they feel like their party has become under Mike Johnson. And so, Tim Burchett was asked by Manu Raju from CNN today about how the GOP feels about how things are going right now. And this is what Tim Burchett and I guess Josh Hawley after that had to respond about how they think things are going.
Are you concerned at all that this was closer than it has been in the past?
I'm always concerned, to be honest with you. And yeah, we got a real problem and we better wake up.
What about issues like affordability and the like? Do you guys need to do a better job on those issues?
Of course we need to. The best friend the Democrats have right now is the Republicans' messaging, because we do a terrible job of messaging.
So we have got to help people be able to afford the necessities of life and just get by day to day. And there's no better place to start than healthcare.
Didn't think I'd ever agree with Tim Burchett, but here I am saying he is right. The Republican messaging is terrible right now. And that is why their approval rating has dropped from the 60s at the start of the year to now is in the mid to low 20s. It is why Democrats are now identified by polls that have come out as the party of affordability and as the party that is best equipped to protect the economy moving forward. So look, I think this GOP sees the writing on the wall. And the problem is at the very top, they have a president who cannot help himself by saying horrible stuff all the time. He has no interest in talking about affordability, as we've seen by him calling affordability a hoax time and again the past couple of weeks, because he does not have a plan to fix this. And so what is the GOP supposed to message when they have control of all 3 branches of government, but don't seem to have a plan to actually address the affordability crisis and fix the economy? You can't build messaging when you don't have a plan. And right now, it seems like, as opposed to creating plans, the GOP has just been reduced to an absolute shambles of infighting. And if this is what is happening 11 months out, imagine what this party is going to look like come midterm day next year. That is it for me today. If you liked what you saw, throw a like on this video, follow the Dem Wins Media YouTube channel, follow me at buildingthebench.substack.com, and we will keep bringing you the news as you need to see it. Thanks for watching.